So the Cowboys Pro Bowlers list is out, and tonight we will react to it, but also we'll dive into what Micah Parsons had to say about Week 18 versus the Washington Commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Prime Time. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. With a lot more content coming your way, make sure that you check out atozsports.com/Dallas. And as always, do me a favor and hit the like button for me if you enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, on a Wednesday night. It is a great night to talk some Cowboys football, and we are as close as ever to the regular season finale for Dallas, and it is one that has caused some slight controversy among Cowboys fans. Not even controversy, but just curiosity, I should say, not controversy. And I mean, as in people asking and wondering, how should Dallas approach this game? If you look at the betting markets, there's no question as to who will win it. The Cowboys are favored by 13.5. Now, that gives you a solid idea as to where each of these teams is headed. The Washington Commanders are looking at potentially picking second overall in the 2024 NFL Draft, while the Cowboys are one of the biggest contenders for the Super Bowl in the NFC. But don't let the spread fool you, because I'm going to give you two numbers very quickly right now. The Cowboys were 13.5 favorites versus the Arizona Cardinals back in week 3. And the Philadelphia Eagles were favored by 13.5 too against the Cardinals just last weekend. The betting spread just tells you what the betting markets are expecting and what the public might feel like about a particular game. This is all to say that the Cowboys have a strong and easy decision to make here, which is you should treat this as a serious ball game. You cannot go into Washington and play with your food. You cannot go out there with a vanilla offense. You cannot go out there with a vanilla defense. And it is also not exactly the game where you just want to hold some of your injured starters or rotational players back just to have him heal. If they can go, they should likely go against a Commanders team that, hey, it's a team with nothing to lose. Those are always dangerous. People say they're better off losing, not the players. The players want to put up a strong, solid game on tape because they might be looking for a job next year. Ron Rivera does not care about the second overall pick because he's not going to be there to make the pick in the first place. Sam Howell is likely going to be as motivated as ever as long as he can push the Commanders out of a position to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May in April. So don't mistake this game as an easy one, right? It should be. On paper, it should be an easy game. Cowboys blew the Commanders out when they played at AT&T Stadium back in Thanksgiving. But this is not a game where the Cowboys should take their rival lightly. And I thought there was a strong Micah Parsons quote speaking on that. But before we get to that, let me say hi in the chat and let me hit you with some news. Sam Howell is going to be the starter. I know I already mentioned him, but we had some curiosity as to what was going to go on there because here's a timeline in case you missed it. Sam Howell goes down, not injured, actually. He's benched outright in week 16, and Jacoby Brissett takes over. Has a solid ending to the game, and then Ron Rivera announces to the world, Jacoby Brissett moving forward is going to be our starter, but he suffers a hamstring injury before he can even start a game. So in week 17, it is back to Sam Howell. Puts together, as solid as a ball game as you can put up against the San Francisco 49ers if you are Sam Howell. But then Ron Rivera has since confirmed, he did it today, that it's going to be Howell on the controls for Washington when they host the Cowboys for this, in Mike McCarthy's words, playoff game, right? Because Dallas is going to treat it like a playoff game. So anyways, if you were wondering who's going to be the enemy for Dallas. It's going to be Howell. And the thing about Howell is that he's a gunslinger. It's not exactly a good, solid, consistent gunslinger, but he's going to take some shots and he's got a good arm, obviously, can make very high difficult throws, high difficulty throws. However, he also is very turnover worthy prone. And I think he's one of the leaders still in interceptions in the NFL, but I'm not exactly sure if he is the exact like leader. I don't think he is, at least. But let's see what the actual number is. He's actually not that close. I know he is leading the NFL. Sorry, that's why I didn't find him. 19 picks so far this season. And then if you look at the turnover worthy play rate, it's also pretty high at 11th. But here's the key, and I'm just going to get to this very quickly before moving on to the chat. When you look at plays under pressure, that is where Sam Howell just crumbles, because he jumps from 11th to 7th. And if you look at just without, including the rates, just going by number of plays, he leads the NFL when he's under pressure, because it's a very pass happy offense, by the way. They are the second pass happiest offense in the NFL this year in terms of how often they throw the ball on early downs. I think that favors Dallas, because even though they've got Brian Robinson and, Antonio Gibson at running back and all that, even though they have that situation on the backfield, they're still a team that wants to throw the football, and that benefits Dallas with the strong pass rush that they have, and without the Commanders wanting to live in this world where they just want to run the football and exploit what seems to be the weakness of the Cowboys defense, right? With all that being said, let me say hi, and then we'll move on to the Micah Parsons quote. Hope that you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday night. Saw some of you discuss the future at head coach for Dallas. I'm going to intervene there very quickly, and I'm going to say, because I saw some conversations about, it's going to be Dan Quinn or it's going to be somebody else. I'm going to burst your bubble right now. And I'm going to hold this statement that I've made before on the show. I'm going to double down on it. Cowboys can go to the wild card round and they can lose in the wild card round, and your coach next year is going to be Mike McCarthy. And in my opinion, it should be that way. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy is perfect. Yeah, it was his fault, the whole time management thing, that the Lions game was close in the first place. It was also a little bit of Dak Prescott's fault. Once you hear their explanation of the 2nd and 14 bomb to Brandon Cooks, but it's definitely, the best option for Dallas right now. So I just wanted to intervene very quickly there, since I am addressing the chat right now. Shout out to all of you, by the way. Eddie Logan says Bland will be ready to pick 6. And, that's when history was made, right? In that Cowboys Commanders game. That was when history was made. 63-yard pick 6, if I remember correctly. Epic moment. I remember talking about it here on the show and pointing out just how much of a challenge it was for Bland to finally get into the end zone. And that's what made it so much more satisfying, right? It wasn't just that Daron Bland had made history. It was that it was such a long developing play that we got to realize what we were watching as we watched it. And I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Jim Nantz on the call, was it not? And he nailed it. It was Jim Nantz. He nailed the call because he also made it seem like so important in the moment. And then you saw Daron Bland fighting through Commanders offensive linemen and all that as he got to the end zone. I remember there was a huge block. I cannot remember whose block it was, though, right now off the top of my head. But amazing play. Let's see here. What else do we have? We have Bruce saying, if Dallas punches them in the mouth early, they will start mentally clearing their lockers and planning vacations, says Bruce. Let's see here. We've got Travis and we've got Gregory. He says, got to get some road confidence before the playoffs. And Travis might have inadvertently given me the perfect segue to move into the Micah Parsons quote, because Micah was asked about this very thing, Travis. He was asked about road confidence, right? And, this game potentially being a confidence booster for Dallas ahead of the postseason. And I absolutely loved Micah's answer. And I'm going to spoil you a little bit here, but he basically shot that whole idea down. And you know how Micah's mindset works. He's not exactly your regular player, even when he's talking to the media. He will talk very sincerely, very openly about what he thinks and what he believes. And this is what Micah Parsons had to say when he was asked about potentially boosting the team's confidence with a win on the road in Washington. He said, and I quote, "I feel like confidence at this point, it shouldn't be about confidence. To be like everyone should just know, go out there and do their job. This is your job. We are a team. We need to go out there and play together and be as one and go out there and get a win that we should win." I think that's what it's about. I don't even think it's about confidence or should be about confidence. We are a week away from the playoffs. I think I'm tired. I'm tired of learning and growing. It should just be about dominating and playing great football. I like this quote in several levels. Number one level is Micah being pretty honest and pretty open about the fact that they should win it. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it, right? This is not the Lions game. This is not the Bills game. This is not the Dolphins game. This is one where you just have no excuse. There's no excuse if Dallas goes to Washington and loses it. And I'll go a step further. It's one where, it's NFL football, so there's some room for error there, but it shouldn't really be close either. This is one of the worst teams in football with a quarterback situation that was so bad that the guy that you're going to be playing against was recently benched in this very month. Well, not really, December. But this is a game where if we're talking about confidence, we got to ask, why would you draw playoff type confidence from beating the team that is currently slated to pick second overall in the NFL draft? And I also like it because the conversation has shifted a little bit. And we're not even talking about winning a road game because Dallas might not even need to win a road game until the NFC Championship game if they get there, right? Because Dallas wins this one and they have secured themselves a home game in the wild card round. And if they win that, then they've got a secured divisional round game at home too. And then maybe if you go to the NFC Championship game, of course, chances are it's going to be in San Francisco. If a crazy upset happens before that, you even have a chance at hosting the NFC Championship game, which I know sounds pretty crazy. Obviously, that is not the expectation, but it's still something worthy of being pointed out. But I also wanted to bring up the Micah quote because tomorrow night we might start diving a little bit more into the X's and O's of the game. Not X's and O's, it's like in a deep, deep way, but the matchups. We're going to be talking about the keys to beating the Washington Commanders. But when it comes down to it, there's only so much you can evaluate about the game, right? Sure, we can talk about watching out for Terry McLaurin. We can talk about watching out for the screen game in Washington, which is still pretty efficient, or at least it was the last time we talked about them. We could talk about Eric Bieniemy. We could talk about who's left on that defense right after they traded away their two top pass rushers. We can talk about Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, how that's going to be a matchup to watch, even if Tyler Smith plays, or if he doesn't play even more so. That's where the game could be broken, right? We're going to talk about all that. But it also, it comes to a point where it's like, yeah, Dallas is the better team. Dallas is better in the trenches. Dallas should be better on the boundary. I think on both sides of the ball, right? I think Dallas cornerbacks should be able to handle McLaurin and Curtis Samuel and whatever they throw your way. And they should be able to capitalize on Sam Howell's mistakes too. Now we're going to talk a little bit about, and we'll do that tomorrow night, what went wrong early in the game versus the Commanders back in Thanksgiving before Dallas pulled away. We could even talk about Darren Bland being picked on a little bit in Thanksgiving. But it ultimately comes down to the fact that, hey, Cowboys are the better team. Opportunities are going to come their way. They just got to capitalize on it. And as Micah Parsons said, it's one of those where you cannot talk about boosting your confidence when it would maybe demolish your confidence if you lose to the Commanders unexpectedly. Should be a fun game in that sense, and it's stressful lead up to the game for Cowboys fans, but ultimately they should win it. And I like Micah's mentality in that sense. I remember when we talked about the Dolphins game and the Bills game, kind of being excited about potentially seeing a close win, right? And we even discussed, like, sure, you've blown out all of these opponents. And I am a big, big fan of point differential. I think that point differential and blowouts are really a super important characteristic of Super Bowl champions, even more so than close wins, because close wins are actually way more unpredictable. And if you're blowing teams out, it really speaks of you as the superior team. So I love those. But I remember talking about the Bills and the Dolphins game, and we were kind of excited about, okay, can Dallas win this sort of duel? This is not that. This is one where you absolutely want them to blow them out, and we want to see some Cooper Rush time in the fourth quarter, and we want to see Cooper Rush perform the Landry shift. That's the kind of game you want on Sunday. Let's see what you guys have to say, though. Shout out to Mr. Rue Glock, who says, y'all make sure you tap the like button. Appreciate you, Rue, as always. Anthony says, NFC Championship game, I got to be there no matter what the cost is. Oh, it's going to be high. Anthony, I don't know if you're talking about a potential NFC Championship game in San Francisco, or if you are visualizing, let's face it, best case scenario, and you're visualizing it on AT&T Stadium. Both are going to be crazy costly. So if you're going to go with the no matter what the cost mentality, that's the right mentality to go into it for sure. Hope you make it, though, if you want to go. Let's see here. Lunar says, wishing for a crazy upset, but the Rams resting their starters, so they will fall to Dallas. Man, Lunar Love, thank you for bringing this up, because I was a little bit bummed out when I heard the news. Turns out the Rams are not playing Matthew Stafford. Turns out they're not playing Cooper Kupp. I don't think they're playing Puka either. So it does sound like it's going to be a backup versus backups matchup in San Francisco. And it's going to be Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz leading the LA Rams on Sunday. Not that yet. But yeah, it looks like the 49ers could win that. We win that after all, when we were putting our hopes on LA winning. If San Francisco wins, and let's say Seattle wins, let's put it that way. And then let's say, I could actually share my screen, right, for you to see this. Let me try to solve this, because sometimes I can get in my boomer moment here and there when I'm trying to share my screen. So let me share to you the playoff picture right now through the playoff machine from ESPN. This is my favorite video game in January. Always is going to be my favorite video game. I hope that's visible for y'all. So I'm going to clear my projections here, and I'm just going to do NFC games, right? So Seattle Cardinals, let's go with Seattle for now. I think they're favored. Let's go with the Niners, of course, winning this one. Let's go with, I don't know, Lions beating the Vikings just for fun. Cowboys beating the Commanders. We're going to do the Saints winning for now, or the Falcons winning. Let's do the Falcons. And then let's do Tampa Bay beating the Carolina Panthers. And then there's the Green Bay Bears game, right? The Green Bay Chicago game. It seems to me like this is going to be the key. Because if Green Bay wins and the LA Rams lose, then it sounds like Green Bay is going to be the 6th seed, and then the LA Rams are going to visit the Cowboys. And that's important because, as you guys might imagine, the Rams are one of the scarier wildcard teams that you could face, right? And people like to say, I've had countless people go up to my Twitter and be like, oh, man, you cannot be scared about the 7th seed. If we want to go to the Super Bowl, then we can be afraid of anybody. Listen, that's all fine and well, and I respect it. I understand why a fan would feel that way. But also, I'm going to tell you a secret. There's nothing wrong with understanding that some matchups are less favorable than others and more favorable than others, and that there are certain paths to the Super Bowl that are easier than others. And that if you can delay facing one of the good teams as much as you can, you should be rooting for that. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not the players. We're not being scared about to go on the football field or anything like that. But hey, just wanted to say that. And then I'm going to go back to the playoff picture now. Uh, that is a problem, right? If LA wins, they stay at number 6. But let's say that the Niners beat them in the backups bowl. The Bears could beat the Packers. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I kind of think the Bears upset the Packers. And let me tell you why. That Joe Barry defense is so bad, like legitimately bad, undisciplined versus the run because they don't have gap discipline. I don't think they got anybody in the secondary that can hold on DJ Moore, not even Jair Alexander. And I'm not even sure how happy Jair Alexander is in Green Bay right now because they had the whole 1-game suspension thing with the coin toss drama, which was absolutely funny as heck. And then there's this thing. You guys know how much I like the whole betting market conversation that we have a lot of times. Usually in week 18 or the final week of the season, there are some betting spreads that are inflated. And those betting spreads are the teams that are motivated versus the ones that are not playoff motivated. So, for example, in this case, Bears versus Packers, usually you would see a very inflated line for the Packers because they're fighting for a playoff spot. The Bears are done. The Bears are just deciding if they're going to pick Justin Fields or Caleb Williams or Drake May, right? And then naturally the public goes, oh, man, the Packers are going to roll over the Bears. They don't have anything to win. But usually those are inflated betting spreads. And I say all of this to get to this point, which is the Packers are just a 3-point favorite. That's a red sign to me. That's a red flag. Like, I would be worried for the Packers if I was a Packers fan. I think Chicago can end up winning that one. But basically, I think that's the combination. Like, if the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, it might matter too, but it ultimately comes down to, does Green Bay lose to the Bears? And I think they might. And then obviously, it's a backup bowl. The Rams could still win, even with Carson Wentz. They could win. But overall, we know that the Niners have the better roster, even if we go into the depth of it. So difficult to predict how that one will play out. But if you are a Cowboys fan, you are rooting for the Bears and you are rooting for the Rams in order to avoid them. If you want to avoid them, and I definitely do. I think out of the potential foes that the Cowboys have, if they stay at number 2, the Rams are the scariest ones. Because otherwise, you could have Green Bay, which was statistically the likeliest one before the Matthew Stafford news. Then the Seahawks are also a likely opponent. You could have the Rams. You could have the Saints. Mathematically, there's some room for that to happen. And then you could also have the who was it? The Minnesota Vikings. But that's like a 3% chance, something like that. I'm not even sure what the combination is for that to take place. But the Rams are looking likelier now with that bit of news. So shout out to Lunar Love for bringing it up, because I would have forgotten to bring it up, even though it's been on my mind all day long. Dak put up 300-plus yards and 4 touchdowns versus the Rams right before Halloween. And that is true. Like, I'm just going to make it clear. I would pick the Cowboys versus the Rams. I would pick the Cowboys versus the Rams. He's 33 years old. Steven. Javi Nation asked my age. Javi, take a guess. We're going to change it up. I always answer this question. Javi, now you go take a guess. I'm going to give you a hint. It is not 32 years old, as Stephen White is suggesting here in the chat. We'll let you take a guess, Javi. I'll wait for the comment. All right. Mo is 19. This is J Recruiter. All right, there you go. Leave no doubts, says Stein. Beat who's in front of you. 28, says Javi. Oh, Javi actually went much higher than I thought he was going to go. Good luck on your driver test. God damn. You guys like to have your fun in the chat. I'm 24 years old. All kidding aside, 24 years old. I know I don't look it, but I don't look 28. Come on, Javi. Do I look 28? Damn. Anyways, let's move on here in the chat. Let's move on here on the show. Excuse me. And let's get to the Pro Bowl combo. Let's get to the Pro Bowl combo because the Cowboys had 7 players make the original ballot ahead of the Pro Bowl games. It's not even called the Pro Bowl anymore. It's the Pro Bowl games. And these are the characters for you. Dak Prescott, who is not voted in as a starter. It was, unsurprisingly, Brock Purdy with the San Francisco 49ers. Then you get CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be a starter. I mean, hypothetically, right? Obviously, the goal is for the Cowboys to not even play the game. But, I mean, basically, both leaders. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Brandon Aubrey, which is awesome to see, especially considering that Jake Elliott is in the NFC for the Philly Eagles, and he's had a tremendous year, but not really a perfect year. Brandon Aubrey has had a perfect year. It's also been amazing in kickoff duty. So Brandon Aubrey was an absolute luck to make it. Then you had Brian Anger, the punter, obviously making it. There's Zach Martin making it at right guard, and Dayron Bland, the cornerback, making it, which a little bit of a fun fact to you. And actually, I'm gonna make you a question, and then I'm gonna get to the fun fact. Who was the biggest snub for the Cowboys on this Pro Bowl election? Who did they leave out? Let me know in the chat. While you do that, let me tell you something about Dayron Bland, because I wrote about it today. Dayron Bland not only gets the honor of making it into the Pro Bowl for the first time in his career, but he makes a whole lot of money of it. Millions of dollars into Dayron Bland's pockets after the NFL news. Here's why. All kidding aside, and that makes him eligible for this thing called the Proven Performance Escalator. Proven Performance Escalator is basically a salary raise, right? And the way that it works is man, did my internet go out? I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know in the chat. Oh man, there goes the overlay now. All right, I think we're a little bit back. We're gonna keep going with the show. We're gonna power through it. There's a Proven Performance Escalator, and those work in several ways. Like there are different levels of Proven Performance Escalators, but here's how it works. If you were drafted between round 2 and round 7 of the NFL draft, so no first rounders, but also no UDFAs, and you make it to the Pro Bowl in one of your first 3 seasons, then you get a salary raise, which is equivalent to a second round restricted free agent tender, which is kind of like a tag, but not really a tag. But I'm just using it as an example, right? Like a 1-year deal, which is automatic, and the league sets the value of it. And if you're a restricted free agent, they can tag you with it. But anyways, they just use that as a benchmark. And here are more or less the estimations for one in 2024, because that would be when Dayron Bland receives it. Right now, they're projected at $4.6 million in 2024. Now, Bland's base salary is $1.1 million in 2024. That means that if it comes at that value, the tender does, he could be looking at a $3.5 million raise. Gotta be happy for Dayron Bland. Gotta be happy for Daron Bland. Uh, Anthony says that I'm not real, that I'm an AI. Turn off the video. All right, here we go. I think we're back though, based on my software here. I don't know what that was all about, but we seem to be back in terms of the Wi-Fi. So, anyways, who's the snub? Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Who was left out? Toxic, of course, says chew my dog. Damn, man. Tank says Clayton. Tank not being named to the Pro Bowl is criminal. Tank could be criminal. I agree. I'm going with Roos too. Tyler Smith should have gotten in before Zach Martin did, whether we like it or not. Tyler has been the best guard on the team this season. Tyler Smith says J Recruiter, who also says Tyrant too. Mark Aaron says Tyler. J Recruiter says D-Law. Peter also goes with D-Law. Sonny goes with Tyler and Tank. I think those are the players that were left out. I agree. There are others that could have gotten in the conversation, but I'm just pissed about Tyler Smith and Lawrence. And even Lawrence was pretty much to be expected with the way that it is a very popularity-based voting process, right? Because 1/3 of the vote is the fans chiming in. And that makes it too similar to what we talked about last night. People care about sacks, and maybe that's not D-Law's game, even though he's one of the most complete defensive ends, and he's a fantastic, elite, superlative run defender. But still, he doesn't have the sacks, so people maybe don't vote a whole lot for him. Gregory Aubrey is in the NFC team. He's actually the starter. He got named to the Pro Bowl as a starter. I mean, I think that should have been automatic. Somebody tweeted today, I think it was Brandon Laurie from Blogging the Boys, tweeted, who would you pick right now for a playoff game between Justin Tucker, NFL legend, and still going, or Aubrey? And you might think that's a close conversation, but if you ignore the name, it's really not. Justin Tucker is declining a little bit, even though we hate to admit it. But I'm just going to show you the numbers right now. Aubrey is obviously at 100%. You know that overall. Tucker is down at 17th in field goal efficiency rate with 86%. Now, if you look deeper, you will see that Justin Tucker has just attempted 5 50-yard plus field goals this season and has made one of them. So he's 1 for 5 in 50-plus yard attempts. And you know about Aubrey. He's made 9 in 9 attempts. The only kickers that have attempted more 50-yard plus field goals this season, so more than Brandon Aubrey, are Brandon McManus with the Jaguars, Matt Gay with the Colts, Matt Prater with the Cardinals, and then even McPherson with the Bengals. None of them are at 100%. I think there are other guys that have attempted 9. Yeah, there's 2 other guys that have attempted 9, just like Aubrey, over 50 yards. They're not perfect either. So Aubrey is really on just a whole other level. And if you look at touchback rate in kickoff duty, no one like him. Brandon Aubrey is number 1 in the NFL, excluding somebody that has 2 attempts, which we're not going to count for obvious reasons. So Aubrey is going to be the first team All-Pro kicker, should be the first team All-Pro kicker, gets the Pro Bowl nod, all of the, praise, he deserves it 100%. I strongly think if the NFL considered him a rookie, because from what we've seen, he's not considered a rookie, having played in the USFL, he could have some sort of argument to be not rookie of the year in the NFL honors system because they do offense and they do defense. But I just would imagine that, hey, Brandon Aubrey could be in for those awards that are global, for rookie of the year. That's how insane his season has been so far. Let's not jinx him for the postseason, though. Let's not go ahead and do that. Anyways, before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, just a couple of injury updates. Jonathan Hankins, limited in practice. And boy, oh boy, did it feel good to see him out there in the pictures and all of it, and you look at him, and that's Jonathan Hankins, nose tackle. You just gotta be excited about him coming back because he's been missed. He's been missed. People like to blame it all on the linebackers, but his presence on the defensive line is absolutely notable, and it looks like he should be ready to go for Week 18. An important part of it, Carl Davis, no longer eligible to be called up from the practice squad. So Dallas needs a nose tackle, and the fact that maybe they're not doing anything about it would suggest that Hankins is about to be back for Week 18. So you get Jonathan Hankins limited, and then you get several DNPs, some of them with veteran stuff or some of them with rest stuff. But Juan J. Thomas, Tyron Smith, Tyler Smith, Zach Martin, they all did not practice, right? Martin and Tyron are rest days. Tyler with a foot injury, and then Juan J. Thomas dealing with a sickness. And then Hunter Lipke was a full participant. Hooker, Lawrence, and Lewis also didn't practice. Hooker is dealing with an ankle injury. And then you've got basically that's it. Rico Dowdle limited with an ankle injury. And it sure sounds like Rico Dowdle is ready to go because a certain somebody was placed on injured reserve, and that will end his season because that's Deuce Vaughn. And that will end his season unless he can come back for the Super Bowl and unless the Cowboys want him to be back for the Super Bowl. So I'm betting we don't see Deuce Vaughn, right, until next season. But Deuce Vaughn was placed on injured reserve with an ankle injury. I'm not sure about that one. And Bilyami Fehoko was activated off of injured reserve, which I'm not sure we're going to see unless somebody goes down injured because Dallas is already pretty loaded on the defensive line. And, Bilyami was never looked at during the regular season. He was a healthy scratch all up to the point where he was placed on injured reserve. So I'm not sure we're going to see him, but he's going to be on the roster and he could play. He could play for Dallas if need be. They needed to activate him or they would have to place him on season-ending injured reserve. So that's probably the reasoning behind all that. What penetration is Vaughn rehabbing at? This is toxic. We don't make fun of short people here. Toxic, especially because Deuce Vaughn is taller than me. So we cannot go ahead and do that. We just can't. It's wrong. Shouldn't do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will be it from you tonight here on ADC Sports Dallas Prime Time. Tomorrow, we'll talk about CeeDee Lamb. We'll talk about the Washington Commanders game, and we'll get ready for this, for the final primetime show of the 2023 regular season. That's what we'll do tomorrow night. Then it will be just playoff football. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about the Commanders game, sure, but we're also going to talk playoffs? What you talking about, playoffs? Hit the like button for me and have a fantastic Wednesday night. Appreciate you all. Bye-bye. Peace.